Hello, my name is Damon Friedman, co-founder and president of SOF Missions. As a 20-year veteran within Special Operations, I've gone through many challenges due to my military service and time in combat. We felt called to start SOF Missions to serve our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, focusing on suicide prevention and resiliency. Our mission at SOF Missions is to empower warriors to find purpose and be resilient. Since 2011, when we started the organization, almost 3 million men and women have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the scars of war take a toll on their psychological, physical, social, and spiritual health. Many veterans feel a sense of hopelessness and a loss of purpose when they return to civilian life. They feel isolated and alone, unable to reconnect. And in the greatest of tragedies, over 20 veterans lose all hope and take their own lives. Our goal at SOF Missions is to provide veterans the tools and resources so that they don't become a statistic. We offer a unique approach to combating veteran suicide through a whole health intradisciplinary model. The Be Resilient program is a 4-pillar methodology that addresses the areas of psychological, physical, social, and spiritual wellness. We provide care through 3 delivery methods: medical clinics, retreats, and educational training. Since we started back in 2011, we have been able to reach veterans in all 50 states and have served over 3,000 veterans through the Be Resilient program. Being resilient is a multifaceted and complex issue. We know that to find a lasting solution, we have to address the whole warrior. Many challenges cannot be solved by providing the treatments and modalities of just one component, but by tackling them all. Now, we've expanded our services to include law enforcement and first responders. Together, we can make a lasting impact in the lives of warriors across the nation. To learn more, visit our website at sofmissions.org.
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation, the MisFitNation show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the MisFitNation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience need to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation show, your Thursday after dinner edition. We know you have other places you can be, other things you can do, but thank you for choosing that ride with us tonight for your one last ride this week. We pause real quick here. We've lost three heavyweights this week. Malcolm Jamal Warner was first. Then we lost the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, and today we lost, brother, Hulk Hogan. He went down today, so that's That's your 3 celebrities for this week are gone within 3 days. So the next tally will come up. Keep their families in your thoughts and prayers. and all the Hulkamaniacs out there that are now mourning. I've seen Ozzy billboards here in Clarksville today, giving condolences to Ozzy in Clarksville, Tennessee on the digital billboard. So that shocked me a little bit, but I know his reach was out there. Tonight we have a great guest. It's one you don't want to sleep on. He is a born-again Christian. He's an author, a motivational speaker, and servant leader with over 4 decades of life experience, working across small-town America to global metropolises. He's a retired United States Army Lieutenant Colonel, serving 23 years in the United States Army, including 4 combat deployments. Following his career, he transitioned into Fortune 500 world, giving insight into corporate leadership and strategy. Above all, his greatest passion is helping others, whether that through volunteering, advocacy, or service. He goes wherever God leads him, committed to making a lasting impact. So without further ado, let's welcome Ryan Reichert to the Misfit Nation show. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, Rich. Thank you so much. It's super blessed to be here tonight. And I'm actually phoning in from Oak Island Resort here all the way up Canadian border, Ontario side, but we are in Minnesota, so I greatly appreciate Elver Layton and his team here. This is the only place that you can get Wi-Fi, so you got to come to the lodge. So if we have anybody passing through, it's they're just a extra guest tonight.
Outstanding. Just get them to subscribe to the Misfit Nation. That'll help us all out here.
Absolutely.
So, Ryan, I told you I'd just give a couple sentences about you. I'd like for you to dive deeper and let the Misfit Nation know a little more about you from as far back as you want to go to how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, I always love starting out, just going all the way back to when it started, circa 1978, a little town called Hoople, North Dakota. It's called Tatertown, USA. It's probably about 350 people when I was growing up there. Might be a little smaller today, but a strong community. And, it was one where it greatly, impacted the foundation and the beginning of, who I am today, and knowing that it's a lot of good people in the world. And, my perception of what it was like to grow up in a small town was like, I got to get out of there as soon as possible. And I finally went back there last year and met some old friends and so forth. And it's super cool to see, those who, stick it out and, chase that hard down, the line. Where for me, unfortunately, until I sobered up a year and a half ago, I was fear, right? Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And I was the first one, unfortunately. And, we fast forward coming out of that small town, and I had a lot of injuries, growing up, blew my knee out in football. And that's where kind of the alcoholism started. My dad's a recovering alcoholic at 40 years. So God bless him and, his recovery program that he, faces every single day. But also a Vietnam veteran, which is super special that we both share that as well, serving our country and, allowing freedom to ring under our umbrella while we were there. Transitioned to University of North Dakota, where that's when the Army started. I was in ROTC for a few years there, and then moved on to do all the cool things that the School for Boys at Fort Benning, Georgia has for us out there. I think that started in 2002, Airborne Ranger, all that cool guy stuff. And then we ended up in Hawaii, Schofield Barracks, and that's where the first deployment to Afghanistan ended up happening. And, came back, went to the Captain's Career Course, and then went, to there. I commanded out on Sand Hill for Infantry Training Brigade. Was able to, cut my teeth and come to command first there. It was super special. And I was kind of at that point looking at, would I get out of the Army or not? We were having our first child, and, it was kind of one of those where, I was like maybe a little burnt out, and, had a great battalion commander that was like, hey, why don't you just give it a couple more years? And we ended up going to Fort Lewis, Washington, where we deployed to Iraq from there. And same thing kind of happened where I was like, all right, maybe now it's time to transition. And, what ended up happening is came back, we stayed, and I blew my right Achilles out. And this is where I started with the prescription drug addiction and Oxycontin. And that ended up, kind of abusing my rank, for a number of months, trying to get, extra prescription drugs from, the captain, PAs, and so on and so forth. And, I think after 6 months of abusing that, it was kind of like time to stop it. And, we just fast forward a couple more times, got more deployments. And, in 2022, I retired and tried Fortune 500 for about 2.5 years. And like we were talking, Rich was laid off a year ago from that Fortune 500 job. And then just this past December, I started Our Protector LLC, which has turned into Our Protector Legendary Leadership Companies, having a multifaceted a book series, soon to have an online course. We have a podcast that I co-host with Lisa Sanders. She's a nurse of 25 years, so it's Our Healer, Our Protector. And you can YouTube and check all those cool things out. But yeah, we do motivational speaking on a couple different stages with different groups there. And then trying to think, I think I'm forgetting one thing, but I know it'll pop up as we keep talking tonight. So I really appreciate it.
Definitely. And it's 1 year ago, you were sitting in the same spot when you found out you were laid off. That's what another thing we talked about in the green room.
Yeah.
And I think the best part of where you are right now is you're there with your dad and you're on a fishing trip for like something you do every year or a lot of years since you
Right.
were 6 years old about till now. That's about 40 years of bonding with your dad and still doing it and still going strong. And that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty special. Just like we were talking about earlier, we had to bump this trip up because he's having back surgery, and like you said, with the mighty Hulkster and the Prince of Darkness and so forth. I just think about, is this the last fishing trip? You just never know. And yeah, it's special to have him in, just like your father that you still have in your life. It's, as long as we can have him around, keep spending time with them. They love it. So
Glean knowledge from them because they can't take it with them. So take as
yeah.
much as you can from them while they're here. And that way it doesn't go with them wherever they go after this.
Right. Absolutely.
As you transitioned, we talked about transition too, and yours was you got hit with that curveball with Uncle COVID coming to town right when you were transitioning. How was that for you and your family as COVID came and you had a dead set plan, you had an awesome plan, and
Yeah.
curveball?
Yeah. How's that go? Right. The greatest plans never survive first contact. And, yeah, we had planned for a number of years to retire in Olympia, Washington, and I literally, like we say, made the deal with the devil. And in 2019, moved the family to Olympia. We built the retirement house, and we just had 3 short years to cross the finish line. And yeah, what was it? The spring of 2020, when COVID happened that summer, I think the family came back to Minnesota to visit friends, and I have 2 daughters that would have high school friends, and basically their dad was retiring like a year ahead of me or whatever, and they were retiring in Minnesota. And so with that being the case, it was really interesting what it looked like to, what did they want to do? And basically they were like, hey, we want to retire in Minnesota and so we can be closer to our friends. And this was towards the tail end of my last deployment. So not a great time to broach that subject with dad, saying, hey, we want to stay or change 180-degree difference. And, for me, it's probably fear. Just like I said earlier when we started, it's like, what? Like, why would that be the case? And when I look back on it today, it was just my immaturity. I was still a boy, I wasn't a man yet, and I couldn't face what probably would have been the greater good for my children, and to be closer. My mom also got sick, that year, and I couldn't, basically come home to see her during COVID while she was in the hospital. And it made it easy to make that transition. But I think the harder thing was just like I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I thought it'd be easier than it was, and it really wasn't. Having that routine, that camaraderie, and everything that we got so used to in our military lifestyle, our profession of arms. And that's where I really broke down at the end of the day, coming, into the transition of, COVID, and then moving into, a Fortune 500 job, which was maybe a little too lax for me. I needed a little bit more. And it was, like I said, because I hadn't grown up yet. I wasn't emotionally mature enough, and certainly wasn't mentally mature enough.
Definitely. And the other obstacle is when you go from being a hard charger, airborne ranger, come out and go into corporate world. It's 2 different worlds. And in one world, there's things you have to do every day and you want to get them done that day. And you go to the corporate world, they give you a list of things that can get done today, but also can get done within 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
mind on the 1 day thing, and it's hard to
Yep.
attack that.
Boy, you hit that one on the head. I mean, I struggled so much with that, like what's a 25-meter target versus a 300-meter target? I was ready to let's fix bayonets and go get after it. And they're like, no, we need to pump the brakes on this one a little bit, give it a little time, let it marinate. And I couldn't see through a lot of the things. And then also understanding that it is just a slower pace. It's a lot different. I think about just the normal regimen of, I stopped working out, so right off the bat there, that physical side, and, not having that, and those endorphins are, basically, like a superpower. And, also my faith practices were non-existent. Um, I guess I just, and I think I was just numbing, all my feelings. I wanted to either numb it with the prescription drugs I was on. That's one thing I'll give the VA credit. It certainly came through with the doctrine and everything else, but I was abusing, all the things that I was on to numb the pain that I had. And I was also, you get paid a lot more in corporate America, so a lot of shiny objects out there, and certainly enjoyed the finer things in life, and just really burnt everything to the ground. And like we were talking about in the green room, a short amount of time. I think it was 17 months after I'd retired. That it was time to hang it all up, and I sobered up and started walking. I think the good Lord, well, JC was carrying me all those years, and he finally said, "All right, it's time for you to walk on your own." So, I'm just a 20-month-old baby boy here, learning how to walk again and
Right.
talk again and everything else. So it's been pretty special with that side of it, and in the introduction, it was pretty special, just thinking back through that, because it's so sad. We continue to lose our brothers and our sisters every single day, because of that darkness that creeps in. And if there's light, there can't be dark, and I've found that today. But it's you got to stay regimented in our routines.
And you definitely got to understand that you do have people around you that care about you, even if you think you're alone.
Yeah.
That darkness will, if you feel you're alone, the darkness will envelop you and it's over. It's like an enemy, a sworn enemy trying to get you. If you just keep facing forward and drive through the breach, you get through that, you'll see the light in front of you, and stay with us another day and breathe a little easier, and maybe find that purpose like we were talking about in the green room. Having that purpose every day really helps our brothers and sisters to stay forward. It has definitely helped you. And I talked in there earlier about your introduction, born again Christian, and you hear that a lot from people, but some people just throw it out there. I'm a born again Christian. I think you're
Right.
living it, though. You're living what that really means now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's part of my daily regimen. It's, I always bring this up. May's 3-year-old golden doodle is my youngest daughter's dog. And I think it's May's like that godsend, where it was just like, hey, we had 2 dogs, 2 golden doodles, and May was the one kind of like the Tasmanian devil, like she was just all over the place. And so it's like, when we separated, a year and a half ago or whatever it is, 20 months ago now, it ended up being where I got May, and she saved my life, literally, having to get up every morning and walk her. So our routine started that, like get up, we'd walk, we'd just do around, I was so depressed. I was just around the apartment building. So probably, 300 meters,
Yeah.
maybe. And then over time and space that increased, but through it, like I would read my Bible after we'd walk. And then from there, I finally started, going to the gym, and then all of a sudden, back in December, on my notebook, I started writing, just stuff down. I'd read the Bible, walk the dog, read the Bible, and start writing. And then the next thing you know, literally over 30 days, this bad boy got produced. God only knows when the devil comes for you a second chance at life. And that's the first one, which came out in June, and then it's pretty neat because the second one finally got an author copy the other day. But the Icarus effect, the highs and lows of our emotions, we all have feelings, is ready for pre-order. And there's a third one that's in editorial review, and you take the first 2 and you basically now have the online course, and we're building an app, and it's just, we're talking about, I think December 13th of 24 is when Our Protector LLC started. 30 December of 24, we started writing. And yeah, it's just like, he's like, I'm going to put this sucker on fast forward times X, because if you put the work in, and you follow the steps, just one step at a time every single day, it's there. And so the first book was basically my recovery journey for the first year, and then that year was the separation and divorce process. And I think that was, like, for me, my greatest failure, loss, however you want to look at it in life, catastrophic event. And that's what it opened up, just everything. And now I understand it. It makes me sound crazy, but my imaginary friend, God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, is super cool, because actually my dad and I were watching Braveheart the other night, and I don't know if remember Stephen the Irishman, but we're Irish, and so he's like, he's talking, Father, the good Lord says, he'll get me out of this, but I think you're fooked, kind of thing. And it's the same way as when I look at it today. Like, we talk a lot because I see the humor in it. When I was in third grade, I was going to get held back because I couldn't read. And the humor in that is, one, my mom's a reading teacher, was a reading teacher. She ended up, teaching visually impaired children like Braille at the, so all these different things over time and space, like, but her own son at the time, because I was faking the funk, cheating probably off other people or making stuff up. Good storyteller. And I guess today that's what I do. I'm a storyteller. You write books, you tell stories on stage. But we connect with everyone, and that's the thing. We all want to find that commonality to go, like, the shame and the blame that we receive in life. I always go back and talk about being your 6-year-old self, that little boy that was, like, left behind, that I wasn't strong enough to protect, beyond as I grew up, and so on and so forth. I might have looked all shiny and awesome on the outside, right? Looking good in uniform, all dress right dress, high and tight, and all the good stuff, but just broken, burning on the inside. And it's just because, I couldn't be honest with myself. And so therefore I couldn't be honest with others. And I didn't have that true connection for me, with my higher power. Like I said, God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit is, like, literally where, he's already gone before you. So, like, what are you so worried about? Like, what are you afraid of? And it is a struggle, I know, because there's a lot of things that happen to all of us in life that we want to know why. And I think that's the thing. When we completely surrender to that, we understand where, it ends up becoming the greatest good comes from the truth. Like, it was very hard for me to, tell the truth to my former spouse of what a terrible, evil person I was, and, she knew obviously I had a drinking problem, probably didn't know how I abused my prescription drugs. And, I was one who, ended up, like, I was on Match.com, like, talking to other women, while I was still married, and, like, wanting to date other women. And it's one of those things that the 7 deadly sins, like, I had, hit them all. And it's one of those where until, the last one was broken, then he's like, okay, now I can set you free. And what an unbelievable journey it's been. And it's, like I said, it's only been 20 months, and it's glorious, but it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of pain in that. There was a lot of darkness, and just like you said, like, I've been there. I've had, my M9 in my mouth when I was in Saudi Arabia on my last deployment during COVID, and literally my master gunner knocked on the door, like, literally as, like, I was squeezing the trigger.
Wow.
And it was one of those where you want to talk about synchronizing operations. There's only one entity on this, in this universe, kind of thing, that could be that good at synchronizing an operation, and yeah, Sergeant Brent was just coming for, like, sugar, flour, whatever it may be, and kind of think about like, was that Bad Boys? You got any brown sugar? Kind of thing. Like it was just one where I just can't. And it's weird because like, I had other suicidal ideations over the years and, even previously, but after I sobered up, that all like went away. It doesn't mean that tomorrow, like, something could happen or whatever, but I know today in my practices that I, execute there, like just with a little bit of light, there can't be any darkness, that's the thing. So it's just like, make that light brighter. And so, that's what I teach today when it comes to working with others, is, what do you love? Like, what's your true purpose? Like, you have these talents inside of you. Like, what do you really want to do? Like, acknowledge that you need to do something maybe to pay the bills, but had a great, I guess maybe it was 2 weekends ago now, but it's Warriors Next Adventure, an amazing nonprofit. Nick Ron started, nothing against the Air Force or whatever. Still love our brothers and sisters in the Air Force. But we need them. Got us to places we've never been able to get to. And, but yeah, and we're talking with some of the guys that were there, and just like that, you start asking people like, what, like, if you didn't have to like pay the bill, like, what would you do, right? Like, what would you really want to do? Like, what are you passionate about? And a couple of the guys were like this, and I was like, well, hey, let's just start off small and just see, like, any of your benefits. Like, you could go to school at night, so on and so, what I mean? But you got to put in the work. Like, it's not going to be easy. It's not, something that, it's just like me all the time. I'm like, oh, I want to be a best-selling author, and it's like, well, like, how many books have you sold, kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't know yet. I'll find out in January, I guess, when they give me the roll up across the universe here. And yeah, I think that's the thing. We want to be something, but we don't put the work in, right?
Right.
It's like being on podcasts, it's like being on a podcast every single day. And I probably be a best-selling author, but you're lazy. And I'm like, oh, one a week's good, kind of thing. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough work. And it's like, okay, well, you're just going to be mediocre at best then, because you're not putting the effort in. And, it's that's the part of the human part of this. Our soul says we want to do it all and get all the accolades. That the human side of us says, I love binge watching Netflix, so
Eating popcorn. I like
yeah.
it. I think it's a lesson for everyone. They think there's an easy button for everything, especially now with AI. AI can write you a book now, and I just have to put my name on it. But you still have to put the work on the backside. You still have to do all the things on the backside to make yourself get those awards, to make yourself wind up a bestseller in whatever niche that you put it out in. And that's the hard part. Writing it usually comes easy because it's your story or it's your journey. And if it's truthful, it's easy. If it's a lie, then of course you're dealing with something else on the inside anyway. So you have to write another book to clean it up later. But if you do everything the right way on your side, and then, like you said, getting on podcasts is fun, but if you have to do them every day and then do your own show, you're going to hit that burnout wall.
Yeah.
You don't want to do any of it, either side of it, and you lack on your own, you lack on theirs, and you don't want to do that. So you have to choose where you're going to put your purpose that week. And like you said, you choose to do 1 or 2 a week. And I think that's a great number, 1 or 2 a week, not do one every hour or 7 a week. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it really is. I mean, I think of that from the standpoint of producing, our own show that, we do. We 1 a week. It's launched, 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So, I mean, yeah, they're all preloaded kind of thing. But, I know the queue's coming up where it's starting to get empty, and it's like, all right, now you got to, go put the work back in. And, at least we co-host. So it's too easy to have that dialogue, I guess, with the two of us. But it's nice having guests on and, having new perspectives when it comes to everybody, working through things. And, but yeah, it's still work, it's one of those things that, yes, talking comes naturally, like for me, but at the same time, you're still taking up whatever it looks like, if you want to be working on something else, like, like for me, I struggle a lot with technology. So like you say, the AI piece, like I've really struggled with AI because I can't take it apart. I can't see what, makes it tick. And so I've been monkeying around with it, with different things. but I do really struggle in that area when it comes to anything tech savvy, like starting this app. I'm just like, I got to bring in some people that are experts in it, because all I can do is take the content, bring it in, but I can't make it look all pretty and stuff. It'd be like stick figures and whatever it may be. So but really looking forward to like how it can help, because I mean, I see where I've come from, in just a short amount of time, and seeing others like utilize the same tools, and like right off the bat, and in a 90-day period, we've achieved with 5 separate case studies right now what it took me 18 months to achieve. They're doing it in 90 days, and so it's pretty special that it works. And so like, it's super cool. I look forward to us working more together, now that we've had our first introduction in life. Just knowing that you guys' cause has been so impactful, and it's like being an infant in the game. Now it's like, all right, cool. Let's continue to build this out, because let's make a difference, and love all our brothers and sisters out there, and want them to not feel alone or isolated, because I know what that feels like. And it's cold, it's dark, it's very lonely, and we love you. We do love you. So
Definitely.
stay the
And
course.
what you were saying with the master sergeant, your master gunner coming in there, you're the, I think, 9th or 10th man I've had on this show that was at the point of 1 pound of pressure away from dying, and
Yep.
there was divine intervention. I call
Yeah.
it intervention because that's exactly what it is, and
Yep.
it's timing, it's his plan, and everyone's story, I get the chills because you can feel like you're there. You had the pistol in your mouth in Saudi Arabia. It's you're away from home, and your brother there is the one who comes in and saves you. I had one where his kid walked in as he was about to do it, and that ended it. One perfect is a weapons expert, and the weapon jammed.
Yeah.
Just little things, and it all comes back to knowing at that point that you're here for another purpose. You're
Yep.
here. You're supposed to be here. So now we have to rebuild you as best as we can, and you need to help you rebuild yourself. And I think things like Warrior's Next Adventure. I've been watching a video here while you're talking. It's in my face here. The guy picking his nose and stuff. It's a funny video.
No, Nick's got some good stuff to keep us laughing too. That was, I hadn't laughed like that in a long time, and that's all. That's
him too.
All it took was to get around 12. And it was super cool because we had some guys, Vietnam veterans and so forth there. Like I said, my dad's a Vietnam veteran. Both my grandfathers were World War II naval veterans, and it's when I think about it in that service side of things, like that's to me just, like where we did it before, so why can't we keep doing it? It's one where it shouldn't end. It should never end. I always thought it was, so corny, right? Like the SFL tap, they give you the soldier for life kind of thing, just because like you're done, right? You're like, and I'd been done for a long time. It was probably 5 years before I retired, when I was kind of like, knew that, when you don't have that carrot to chase any longer kind of thing, you just like, I put it on the shelf. And, when I really look at it at the end of the day, it's, well, that's what I titled this stuff. I call it the war of purpose built to break. It's one of those things where like, if we build ourselves up to that point, like we won't break, because we understand that, one, we have each other, but the other side is like, we're only as strong as the purpose that we're following, and that's the one thing of it, is we all have, like I said, talents and purposes inside of us that make us so unique that let's shine them, because like I said, I don't know anything about AI or technology and stuff like that. So like, if you're somebody out there listening right now, like send me a note. Like I'll certainly take you up on helping this guy out and doing some work together, because yeah, I just, it's and then if you don't like it, like you're certainly not going to focus on that, where for whatever reason the writings come faster, the first thing that's come back. So I love to write the next book now versus work on something else. And because we like comfort, right? That's probably our greatest weakness, as human beings is, comfort, whatever makes us comfortable, right? Like, it's, think back to the poncho and poncho liner, probably the two greatest things ever. And then, what do? We get like bivy sacks and, compression sleep systems and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, it's, I call it comfortably uncomfortable. If you're ever comfortable, don't get comfortable, because that's what can cause the most damage for us is, just always trying to be too comfortable. And, it's okay to have a little bit of pain. And,
As a young RTO in the infantry, light infantry, I had to choose my battles, what I wanted to carry with my radio. So the Whoopee was my lifesaver, and I kept that thing, and I still have it. I still have that one plus one newer one. So I have one that really is horrible smelling, but it looks like it's been through all the battles, and then one that's very fresh. So I have both of them just to show me the path I was
no, I mean, it's probably the greatest blanket ever made. I mean, certainly, I, like I said, have the same. I have a super old one and then a newer one as well, and I love them. I love them. They're great.
I was like, when are you gonna get rid of them? I was like, never. Here forever, or until it falls apart, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
I
For
wanted
sure.
to bring up Casey Edmondson wrote in here earlier. Hoople in the house. You ran a kickoff back in high school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Awesome, Casey. I love you, brother. Yeah, he was his older brother Ryan, a year younger than me, and then Casey was in my sister's class, so three years younger, and I love it. So thanks, Case.
He was on right away. And then there's a question from the audience in here. Walt, you, how do you define servant leadership in your life?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's I always look at servant leadership as, like how you'd want to be treated. I guess if like from other leaders, that like truly serve like their subordinates. So it's one of those that you lead by example. You'd never expect someone to do something that you haven't done yourself. And that's hard, right? Because like when I look at thinking all the way back, to being, Cadet Reichert and Lieutenant Reichert to, Lieutenant Colonel Reichert upon retirement, it'd probably been a lot of years in some of those cases of what I had done, from, lead by example per se. And so in corporate America, it was very similar, from that side of it. It's like, you come in, I, worked with a great team that we built a risk management team together with the risk management index. And some of the team, like I said, that was more tech savvy. We're the ones that created the software that allowed us to be very successful with the tools. And, that in itself is where I would definitely look at, it's just like being in shape. Like I would, sounds terrible, but, even in corporate America, if you're a leader and you're out of shape, like maybe you don't have the greatest discipline to be leading a team. Kind of very similar in the military. We have height and weight standards, so therefore, it's just leading a life of discipline that also exemplifies the purpose side of it. And being a true servant leader, is one of those things where you constantly lead by example. And I love this. Ben Newman, I'm part of his coaching program, and he calls discipline over feelings. And I love it because every day, when I get up in the morning and like I say, walk May, read the Bible, and then it's time to go to the gym. By that point, my feelings are like, well, I don't want to go to the gym, like I'd love to just like not do anything till my podcast or my appointment or whatever it may be, right? Because as an entrepreneur and in today's world, in the virtual world, you can do whatever you want to do. But discipline over feelings is one of those where, it's like, okay, well, I haven't got my 3 wins yet until I finish that physical win. And so that's kind of one of the big pieces of the first book there, where, it talks through your 3 wins, and then you go into your 7 habits for success each day. And, if you focus on those simple things, you achieve something that is your purpose. And then therefore you have those endorphins and everything else that you can then execute, the day that much more. And I never really realized it or thought about it that way. And then, it's interesting too. I have these spiritual practices that I teach, because you can't have spiritual without ritual. So it goes back to obviously the routine and the habits. And it focuses on, fasting. And everyone always thinks fasting in like not eating. And I look at it completely different. I look at fasting in all forms, so music, TV, talking to other people, this little box that keeps lighting up on me in front of me, whatever that we remove, and it doesn't have to be for, days or weeks or anything like that, but you can just lessen it, where we just bring it down a little bit. I mean, I know there's screen time, apps or different things. I remember when the kids were younger that we had, and they'd be like, my thing stopped working, and it's like, yeah, because, you only get to be on it for an hour a day or whatever that looks like, or it's shut off at 8 o'clock at night. And, as we lessen all of that, we have a greater connection, just like we were talking about, so being up here at Lake of the Woods, we call it God's country because it truly is. Like, you ground yourself. And I think, as I've lived in Minneapolis now a few years, and you're closer to the city and everything else in that concrete jungle, we end up having, that loss or lack of, true grounding in nature, like literally like grass, something as simple as that. And we're just not connected anymore. So, but yeah, getting back to Walt's servant leadership, it's just basically establishing that example that, you'd want to have as a leader, and, knowing that you carry that out. And it's a struggle, right? Because, what is it, the old saying, do as I say, not as I do? Well, that means you got to do what you say. And so if you say it, you got to do it. And that's hard because, yeah, there's a lot of things in life that we say we're going to do and we never do it. I think about the books, like it's like 80% of people say they want to write a book or are writing a book, and 1% actually execute. So it's I think that happens in a lot of things. And yeah, I mean, brothers and sisters out there that, we raised our right hand, we volunteered, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's powerful. That's special. And so I know that you guys out there that are listening, if you say you're going to do something, I know you can do it because you already did it once.
Right. And Joe Stazione was on the show a couple weeks ago, and he said something along the lines of what you say, as far as being an example. Don't talk about it, be about it.
I love it.
Say you're gonna do something, do it. And he got a tattoo of a bee on his arm to remind him of that. So
Yeah.
talk about it, be about it. And I thought that was pretty awesome. Even though he's a Marine, I thought it was awesome.
Hey, it's all good. I call it OPD number one, our professional development number one, but beautiful 3/4 ton Silverado, hey, sorry for Dodge lovers out there, Toyota, whatever you got, but Chevys don't have bow ties on the front of them. They got crosses. So, if Jesus Christ was to drive a truck or whatever, it'd be a Chevy. And, but yeah, we have Iwo Jima down the side of it.
Oh wow.
We got the blue angels streaking across it and certain things. And, just years ago, I was so immature, like, it was like, if you're not an airborne ranger, army, who, you're nothing. And, I'm like, now we're all children of God. We all have it, and that's for me. I have faith, hope, and love on the inside of this arm, something my mom always preached growing up. And it equals life. And, we all have a beautiful life to live. We just, got to put the work in and say, whatever we say we're going to do, we do. And we just got to be kind to one another. We got to love each other and, smile. This is a magical thing here.
Stop it.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. And I wrote in my book, 13-Step Guide to Success, to look up 3 inches. You talked about the little box that's blinking at you. If the world would look up 3 inches, you'd see the whole world and stop seeing that glow in your eyes, and look someone in the eyes, smile at them, reach down and pet a dog, which I'd probably pet the dog before I talk to most people, but dog first, person will then melt to you.
Right. Yeah, no, Rich, that's spot on. I think of that all the time. I tell a story always of a guy, in San Francisco, that every day he'd walk the Golden Gate Bridge. It was his favorite thing to do. Walk out there, look across the Bay Area, just like I'm looking across the lake here and thinking, how gorgeous it is. And one day he goes and he's looking out and he just jumps off the bridge, and terrible thing, right? And they get the body back and find out where he lives, and sure enough, next to his bed there was a letter, and it said, if one person smiles at me on my way to the bridge today, well, no one will be reading this letter, kind of thing, because I won't do it. But yeah, in that short mile and a half walk that he took, no one smiled, and he committed suicide, jumped off the bridge. So when I always think of that, I always think of that, how simple. I love it. Look 3 inches up or whatever, make eye contact, smile, engage the enemy. If you're thinking everyone around you is the enemy, just engage them, smile, make eye contact. That's it. And then if you really want to engage them, say good morning, good afternoon. Acknowledge today, a lot of folks don't say it back, but that's okay, because they're probably thinking, man, I wish I would have said something back to him, and you activated the mechanism.
Right.
And so, yeah.
You made their day, and just like the man wrote, if someone smiles at me, I won't jump. You might have just made that person's day.
Exactly.
Maybe they're going down to the subway, might jump in front of a train if you don't do
Mhm.
something to make them think, well, someone actually cares about me. So I think that
Yeah.
we all can do. It's simple. It doesn't cost you anything.
Right. Absolutely.
We got another question from Susan is a Wolf. What was the moment that made it all click for you to make a 180 and drive forward?
Yeah, I think it was true surrender. In it was I had, like I said, I'd committed every single of the 7 deadly sins, and he said, okay, my son, like I will welcome you back in. I've just been waiting for you to finally figure it out. And yeah, like I said, I went to my first AA meeting. It happened to be called the God Squad, and they challenged me to come back the next week, but I went every day for 90 days. So 90 and 90 meetings, 90 days. I started going to church. I went to the Alpha course, to learn, I grew up Catholic, so I did about 20 years of Catholicism, 23 years of Lutheranism, and the last couple of years of just following Jesus Christ. And, that to me is where it all really turned around. Today I teach 6th grade boys at Eagle Brook Church in Wayzata, and that was the age that I started drinking at.
Wow.
I see these little dudes, they don't talk about booze, drugs, girls, nothing. They're like, one, they, actually engage and, listen and sing during worship. I mean, we went to a camp this last year, and they're, just having a good old time, and praising the Lord. And it, to see that in little men and not doing the things that I was doing at their age, that's impactful. That's powerful. And yeah, I just keep doing it. Just keep paying it forward. Keep giving back as much as possible. I think it's one of those. When we released the book about 2 months ago now. I mean, I called it the Redemption Tour 2025 because it's one where I was just downright ashamed of myself that I allowed myself to get to that point in life and then hide so much, lie about so much, just truly hurt, the closest people to you. And that's the problem, right? At least for myself, like, I hurt the closest ones to me, the ones I believed I loved the most, because I was just so broken. But I didn't realize that, I had it all inside of me all along. It's just, I didn't put in the work. I just literally didn't put in the work.
And Frank DeMith, a former guest on the show and a friend of the show now, he wrote, wearing the armor of faith provides a lot of comfort. And he said the first time he's ever been called a 1%er by doing that. And then my brother, we were talking to people. He said, I changed him, and he says hi to everyone now.
I love it.
And that's in New Jersey, where you don't say hello to anybody. So
I was just going to say, I mean, I remember growing up, everybody from the Northeast, he's from Boston, he's a masshole, don't worry about it, kind of thing, whatever. And it's like, no, that's not I mean, it's just, it's all part of us. Like, we need to take a stand right now and just be kind, just smile, just say hi, hey, say hello, how are you? You see someone pulled over on the side of the road, stop and see if they're okay. Like, I mean, that's something for me that bothers me today when I see somebody pulled over, because I'm a previous me would have been like, they got a cell phone, they can figure it out. Like, if they got a flat tire, call AAA, whatever, and it's like, maybe I'm supposed to help them. Maybe that it's supposed to be a connection that's made that, cures cancer or whatever it is, solves world hunger. Who knows? But it's, how great it is when you help somebody out. Just how, like, service is just, that's what fills my bucket, right? Like, it's just one of those things. Like, if you give back, you just end up becoming, just, it's like being Superman. It's just one of those things. You find that, for me, kryptonite was just being unkind. I didn't realize it, that's what was holding me back, was just having a black, selfish heart, and knowing that, you could have a soft and, you know, whatever, just beautiful heart by being kind and loving people and, caring for another human being. It didn't have to be like, what's in it for me.
Right. Today I was on the way to do some self-care, get a massage, and I was driving down one of the little pig trails here in town, and a woman was dead center on the yellow line. Instead of pulling over, she pulled to the middle and was blocking half a lane on each side. I was like, "Oh, what happened here?" I drove up next to her, and she drove the wheel. I mean, it's gone. She had to
Right.
drive this thing for a while. The rim was bent into the frame of the car. I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you sure? Because this doesn't look good." She said, "I'm fine. My husband's coming." I said, "He's not gonna be happy. I'll tell you right now, he's not gonna be happy. This isn't good." I said, "I can't pull you with my Jeep. He's gonna rip everything out from underneath you, but since he's
Right.
coming, I'll s I'll say hi. I hope everything's alright in a few minutes."
All right. No,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know what's going on.
My first thought was, "How'd you do this in a mighty tri?" And then I made sure she was okay and laughing with me, so she was
Right.
alright. I know she was upset about it, but she'll be alright after that. But
Yeah.
it's wild. Yeah, we'll take one more question from the audience. This is from No Python 3. You battled addiction. What helped you through your recovery?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my faith was the number one piece of it. My belief in my higher power and literally having a relationship, is one of those things that I definitely get after it in the book of, just like, it's one of those things like Jesus Christ is my best friend, you know, his dad, or whomever wrote a book, kind of thing. So you read that book and good things happen. But also, just having others believe in you. I mean, that's one of those where, for me with addiction, my sponsor couldn't say enough thing, and really, it's just there to, keep you between the lines, right, when you got some questions or so forth. It's kind of like talking to your parents almost, like, who would have thunk it, somebody that's gone maybe through things before you, maybe they have something that they gleaned from their experience in life. And yeah, just I think the group care, where it's when you just finally start to have circles, like, I think back to the circles I was running in, right? Show me your circles, I'll show you your level of success, kind of thing, or whatever that looks like in life. And be it, where I was going to AA, was a group of guys that, could, pull themselves up, out of the ditch or out of the valley, whatever that looks like. And then from there, I started to, have other, a life coach of my own. And, I mean, today I have a writing coach. I have a mental toughness coach. Um, I have entrepreneurial or business coach. And so I think I just go back to like that military experience, and we had like subject matter experts in like each area, right? Like, so it makes sense. Like, why don't, well, a lot of us, I mean, in a previous life, I would have been like, that costs money and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, would you like to be successful or more successful or whatever that looks like, or have people that have been there and gone through it? And so, yeah, getting back to the Mighty Python's question there, it is just, getting the right circles, pay for some of your circles that I mean, obviously the one circle that I was in, like, it cost me everything, right?
Right.
I mean, literally everything. And so that was a good start, and then from there it's like, okay, well, I'm going to rebuild, we're going to rebuild it all. And so now I understand that what it takes to be better is to have people that punch a lot higher than I do currently. And so that accountability is huge. And kind of like we said earlier, Ben Newman's great quote, or what his tagline, discipline over feelings, attack the process. However you look at it, he's got a lot of great ones. Be the standard, and then feel your burn. And I love that one because we all have this burn inside of us, why we do it, like, why do you get up every day, or why do you want to become better? And for me, it's, I think it's like, I look at my mom, she never gave up, she always continued to seek education, and so forth. And then, my dad just, was always out there, throwing Hail Marys. And, it showed me, though, that, like, you got to take risks in life. And, he's got your back. It's one of those things, he's got your back, literally does. You just got to surrender and truly have trust. Belief's not enough. You got to have trust. So
Trust in the process, and it's all there for a reason.
yep.
Ryan, just 55 minutes has flew by, of course, because
Yeah.
we're having a conversation. That's why this happens. And well, I asked my guests 2 questions as we hit the end here. The first one is, what's the best way for the MisFit Nation to get in contact with you if they want to have you on their show, or just pick your brain a little bit?
Yeah. We got ourprotectordevelopment.com. You can certainly throw on there and, shoot me an email or set some time up. 15-minute discovery calls are free, so don't worry, it doesn't cost you nothing to have a chat with me up front. And but yeah, all the social media, it's either Ryan T. Reichert or Army RT 1978. And I think finally, after 40 odd years, not being a social media guy, it's weird to literally think I'm on all of them now. Granted, some are pretty small, but super special there. And then like I said, the books, first one's out, second one's pre-order, and we're starting also to do retreats, which is super cool. And the first one will be coming up in October. Tom Fanner from Oregon invited Lisa and I out to code chair retreat out in Bend, Oregon. So if anybody's got time, I think it's the 9th through the 13th of October, coming out to Bend. It's super cool. He set it up where couples retreat, but I think the first day is like going to the range and shooting. So I was like, dude, like, you had me at hello, man. Like, and so that's going to be exciting as well. But yeah, super looking forward to anybody who's listening. Shoot me a note, and love to chat.
Awesome. And the final question is, I think you kind of hit some of these as we're going through, but what's 3 things the MisFit Nation can start doing tomorrow to be better humans?
Yeah, I mean, I think we hit it on the head. Smile, make eye contact, be extremely kind. Just knowing that we're all suffering from something out there. And the last thing is, if you say you're going to do it, just do it, and do it to the best of your ability. And if you don't know how to do it, ask for help. Please, thank you, excuse me, I'm sorry. And smile. You can have a beautiful life.
Outstanding. I'm adding those into the comments so everyone can see them. This has been a great conversation with you tonight, Ryan. Frank chimed in again. He said, great show, guys. Need more like this. God bless all our veterans and those currently serving our country in the armed forces. Thanks, Frank, for hanging out tonight. Ryan, again, this is a great chat with you. If you stay on after I go to the credits here, I have a guy I'd like to link you up with, maybe get on his show or have him on your show as well.
Perfect. I love it. Thanks, Rich.
All right. MisFit Nation, it's been great hanging out with you this week. Remember, a day tomorrow with you is better than a day without you. So stay in the light. And if you need us, info@themisfitnation.com, Steven@themisfitnation.com, or Jake@themisfitnation.com. We will all get back with you. We'll stay on the phone with you until you feel better, or we can get help to you so you're with us the next day. Until next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.